President Bola Tinubu inaugurates Presidential Committee on Fiscal Reform, on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, set 18% tax to GDP ratio in 3 months. Welcome to Business Daily. I am Yusuf Akogo. We take our business top stories. Glad to have you back. Now we give you update of the stock market data as it went down yesterday on the floor of the Nigerian stock market. Indeed, the market closed negative 0.04%. It went down yesterday. The volume of trade 317.808 million, value at 4.471 billion naira in a deals of over 6,000 deals there, 6,376 deals there. Of course, the all share index is still maintained at 65,000 basis points. And of course, in terms of the market cap, 35.54 trillion naira. We'll look at the gainers indeed for the day. The likes of Guinness, of course, topping the gainers table there with a huge gain of 10% to close at 60 naira 50 kobo. Of course, look at GlaxoSmithKline, a company that is about to exit Nigeria after about 51 years of operation. It gained 9.74% yesterday to close at 10 naira 70 kobo. Of course, Shelaram also gaining 9.73%, close in green there, 3 naira 72 kobo. It ended on the day. We look at the losers on the day. Of course, the likes of Set PLC also losing 10% there to close at 27 kobo per share. Of course, NMFM, that is Northern Nigeria Flour Mills PLC, closing negative there, 9.89% to close at 12 naira 30 kobo. Of course, John Hott completing the top 3 losers on the day, 9.52% it lost to close at 1 naira 33 kobo. Look at the activity chart and see how the equity traded. Of course, Access Bank Corporation, the mother company of Access Bank, doing 49.35 million volume of shares there. Sterling Bank also coming second there, 43.82 million. And of course, Universal Insurance PLC also doing 28.86 million volume of shares. They will look at the rest of the continent and see how the market across Africa also doing. Tunisia Stock Exchange down there in Tunis closed negative there, 0.07%. It went down on the day. Of course, NMSC, Namibia Stock Exchange in Southern Africa, also closing negative there, 0.01%. And down there in Mauritius, the market closed positive, 0.04%. These are the highlights of the stock trading on Tuesday across the African continent. Of course, the market is on as usual. We'll give you up to date with all the market data from the rest of the continent. But for now, we take a very quick break. When we come back, we go into our discussion. Don't go away. to have you back. Commodity prices there on the screen there that you saw a while ago. Well, it's still Business Daily right here on Trust Television, and we're going into our discussion now. We're looking at the economic implication of Niger closing their airspace to Nigeria, and indeed to the rest of the world. What are the implications of all of this? I'm being joined in the studio by Professor Yahya Zayana Ibrahim. He's the Director of Academic Planning, African Aviation and Aerospace University. Glad to have you on Business Daily.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Yusuf.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Yes, let's start this way. What does it mean for a country to close its aerospace?
All countries on the earth have what we call territory. That is the total land area that the country possesses.
Absolutely.
And it has sovereignty over this territorial land border. No any country can enter without its permission. So the same thing applies to airspace. Any space on the atmosphere that is within the territory of the country is called airspace for that country. They have sovereignty for management over its territory. No flight can pass through that aerospace without permission. So that is why internationally there are many protocols and laws and multilateral agreements that were designed essentially to ensure efficiency, safety and management of all these airspaces. I think if I can recall, in 1944 there is what we call Chicago International Civil Aviation Convention that gave birth to International Civil Aviation Authority, ICAO. They manage all the airspaces with various laws on how to register airplanes, aviation safety, and many other things. Among this, they ensure efficient and proper management of airspace to avoid collision and many other things. So when a country decided to say, I closed my airspace, meaning that no any aeroplane, whether commercial, military and the like, has any right to pass through its aerospace. Once you attempt it, they can shoot it because it is within its power. They can decide who to fly and when and what. So that's essentially what airspace is all about. So when a country decided to close, meaning that no passage, no country, no any aeroplane
can actually pass through there. So what process do countries have to follow to take to arrive at that kind of decision?
Well, it depends. In most cases, if you look at the recent happenings in Niger Republic, it's essentially for security reason, because they felt now ECOWAS are planning to use whatever means available to ensure they reinstate the ousted president of the country. So to them, they felt threatened, because if they allow that, probably they might. The easiest means to attack is through, it's now warfare is through aeroplanes and the likes. So they decided to do that on security purposes. Reason is that if they do that, at least they have right now to shoot any aircraft that violate the rules. And another danger of it is that Niger is one of the countries that has the largest landmass in Africa.
Yes,
the size of landmass is equivalent to the size of the airspace they have, so which is a very serious problem, because especially the landlocked country that you must pass Niger before you reach them, they are in big mess, because you have to now increase probably many kilometers before you have to go around the country, because you have to avoid the aerospace before you can reach whatever you want to. It's a serious problem.
Absolutely, indeed. Before the coup, many people really do not understand the importance of Niger to the rest of the world. Exactly. But this coup, to me, has actually brought out, like, indeed, as porous as some people want to believe that Niger is actually strategic to the rest of the world. Because with the close of the airspace, we are actually, based on what we are monitoring, that the cost of airfare has increased drastically.
Definitely. It has to. For instance, now look at Nigeria and many other West African countries. We have to pass Niger. Our easiest route to Europe is to pass through Niger Republic. Now, if the Niger is blocked, you have to pass through Chad Republic, or you have to bypass through other West African country. There, meaning that addition of thousands of kilometers, and of course it has to come with a cost, because the airlines, maybe the danger now is that airline will increase their fares. Those who booked already, the airline has to run cost, because they have to increase amount of fuel to fuel the fuel jet to reach the destination. It's a serious problem, which probably ECOWAS, they need to look at. Definitely they have to have a solution to the problem of what is happening in Niger now. Otherwise, the consequences will affect everybody. Of course, even the Niger will suffer a lot because they have the money they are receiving whenever there is any commercial air and that pass through their land airspace.
Exactly. So this will affect them economically.
Seriously, they will suffer the most. But at least for security reasons, they are, of course, they have nothing to lose now. So many sanctions are coming up from ECOWAS, US, and many other countries. So they knew, okay, fine, we are going to suffer. You too, you will suffer. So that is a kind of where we don't care. What is going to happen, let it happen. Because they are in serious mess. The country will suffer a lot. They will suffer more than the other countries, but at least we too will suffer because we have to pay more. We have to buy more to reach our destination. So when you disconnect Nigeria, just take Nigeria as an example. Imagine you disconnected Nigeria with Europe. People will suffer. Absolutely. Because most of our businesses, everything we imported things from Europe. And once you have to pay more for cargoes and the likes, it will cost more. The prices of goods will go high and many others.
So the alternative route now for Nigeria, from Nigeria, for example, if you're going to Europe or Asia now, if you have to go through Ghana, maybe Cotonou and others, what does that really mean economically? Economically,
if, for instance, we reach a stage whereby foreign airlines, especially from Europe, cannot come to Nigeria because the cost is getting too high to them. So we're talking Nigeria will lose a lot because aviation is now coming up. GDPs, the contribution to GDP is increasing with the current recent aviation roadmap that we remodeled most of the airports in the country. So we are getting a lot of revenue in billions of naira, contribute to more to GDP now. Now just imagine you have the foreign airlines stop coming. So that we end up with only local operations. It's a serious problem which will affect the GDP of the country. Now probably our passenger has to go to the neighboring countries. And by that, we are taking our businesses, we are taking our GDPs to our neighboring countries, which is a serious problem.
So in a way, this crisis in Niger and of course them closing their airspace to Nigeria and the rest of some other countries will affect the global aviation.
Definitely, it does. It affects the global aviation, global economy, and many other things. Because when the cost of things goes high, it will definitely. And even the country, for instance, let's say they are exporting some perishable items that requires air transport to get delivered on time. Now you don't have any air services available, and if they don't have any alternative routing, they will run at loss.
And this is even becoming more difficult because the airspace over Sudan and Libya is already closed to commercial flights. So adding Niger to all of this is like blocking
we are locking the African
continents from the rest of the world.
Just if you remember, recent Hajj fares had to go high because they have to bypass Sudan, which is a straight route. But because of the insecurity in Sudan, the passengers had to pay more because the airline has to buy more, has to increase the volume of fuel that can be sufficient for them to reach the destination. It's a serious problem. And the earlier all actors realize this is a better and proposed solution, the better for everyone. The coup has happened. They have ousted the president. Whether we like it or not, they must have what is the reason, probably is up to them. It is high time ECOWAS to look at the best option to resolve this problem. The longer it takes, the more consequence and negative to the economy of the entire region.
I was reading just this morning that about 500 passengers making their way back to the UK this morning saw their British Airways flight diverted back to South Africa because they are unable to pass through.
Because you know, when you look at it, technically Niger is above Nigeria and with the whole land mass. So once you,
over 1.4 million square kilometers.
You have to pass through Niger. Now, if you don't want to do that, you have to debate along Chad, probably. With Chad, you have to pass through some portion of Sudan, Libya before you take the route again. Now, it might be too costly for the British Airways to do that, or they felt, let's just think of, if they drop them at South Africa, now they can fly from South Africa to Nigeria, which is too costly to the airline. Probably I might have booked my flight ahead of schedule so that it won't cost much anything to me, but to the airline. But at least the time I spent, probably I might have arranged my meetings and programs, which I know normally 6 hours from UK to Nigeria, and now you have to spend probably about 24 hours.
Exactly. That is huge. Now, my concern is that this is not the first coup we're having in Africa. Especially in recent times, we've had coup in Burkina Faso, there's coup in Guinea. Of course, we're having also a military government in Mali. But the reaction we are getting from ECOWAS, we didn't get that similar reaction when it happened in those countries. What makes Niger so strategic?
Probably what might be factor to this is that, some of the problem might be instigated by political actors. I think is it in Guinea, the then ousted president wanted to extend his tenure, I think, beyond his constitutional limits, and military took advantage of that and threw him away. For Burkina Faso and Mali, they hinge on securities and all this, whatever. The funny thing is that as then ECOWAS, they just suspended them, nothing more. Now, of course, the president of Niger just came on board through peaceful democratic transition.
Yes.
One of the items is so far the best transition in Niger Republic. They had history of military coup. I think the closeness of Niger to Nigeria and interrelationship, and coupled with the changes probably at ECOWAS, now we have new president. The president of Nigeria is the chairman of the head of state. So he felt he has obligation to ensure the ECOWAS step their authority that this thing has to stop. But I think we need to trace back. Why are we just look at all these countries where this thing are happening? Are mostly francophone countries.
Yes.
Then we need to find out what are the reasons behind that. When you look at most of the countries, there is strong sentiment, resentment against France, which fueled most of the crisis. Now look at the leaders in Mali and Guinea and Burkina Faso. They are willing to support Niger. They are ready militarily, whatever ECOWAS is willing to do. In fact, they were even saying they are ready to break out of ECOWAS if that has to be. So it's like it's a new sentiment towards France. Of course, it's wrong to come up with military and took over power from a democratically elected leader the way they did in Niger. So probably that sentiment and anger is what is spoiling some of the decision ECOWAS is taking. But they need to also be very careful. There are limits to what you can do. If to say whatever decision and actions we are going to take, it will going to affect the rulers or the leaders of the coup, excellent. But we knew most of the sanctions and the likes will definitely affect the masses more. And Nigeria and Nigeria are just like a brother and sisters, especially when you go to the northern part of the country. They share so much in common, intermarriages, person in Kaduna,
languages.
A person in Kaduna feel more at home with somebody in Maradi than somebody in southern part of the country.
Absolutely.
So we have to be very careful of this. The impact and the implication is going to be huge on the country and everyone around the region.
And already we're already feeling the impact. If you look at the airspace there, this is Niger, very huge. Down to your left there, you see Mali.
Exactly.
The sheer common boundary with Mali. And on the other side, there is Chad. If you go up there, you see Libya and, of course, Algeria. So this is a very huge cause and has a huge economic implication for Nigeria and, of course, the rest of the continent.
Exactly.
Now, how do you think ECOWAS should handle this? There are so many sanctions is coming in. They were telling the coup plotters to restore back the ousted president. Early this morning, we got a report that the president himself has resigned. And he has allowed to go home, probably under security checks and all of that. But now, my concern mostly is this. We say democracy is the best form of government, but in the last in the last 2 or 3 decades that we have practiced democracy from Ghana and, of course, to Nigeria and then the rest of Africa, we seem to have created more poor people than we were having before.
Honestly,
isn't it a very serious economic problem we are creating?
It is, but it is high time for Africans to understand. We need to understand ourselves first before copying or borrowing any system of governance. Look at the Asian countries. Some of them are semi-democratic countries. They have their own culture. Look at Singapore and all of them. They are developing Malaysia.
Some are even monarchical.
They have their own. They didn't copy democracy 100% the way we did. Even ours is too costly. Why can't we borrow British system of democracy? We borrowed Americans that is very expensive. Look at how we are spending money. Senate, House of Reps, all of them can perform the same function, duplicating duties and the likes. So democracy might not necessarily be the way it is as the best form of government. It's up to the society to organize themselves and do the right thing. What do you think is the best for us? Myself and you knew the kind of democracy we are practicing in Nigeria is not what we need in Nigeria. We need a system whereby things should work. There should be reward and punishment. It's only in Nigeria somebody can steal money, but because democracy, the law say guilty until proven innocent, all those things. We knew somebody might have stolen the money, but you cannot do anything because of the system we have. The judicial system is weak, our parliamentary system as well is weak, too expensive, too costly. Even the presidential system, look at it recently, how many ministers were screened, and all this will come with a huge cost on the economy. And the masses are suffering. Look at the level of poverty, especially now with the removal of subsidy. Government ought to have provided alternatives through all this palliative before. To me personally, you could have provided all the stages involved in palliative before you do that, because people are suffering. Government are celebrating, they have billions, trillions saved from the subsidy removal, and these are money taken from my own pocket and your own pocket. It's just my own money and your own money. What we used to buy food to give out to our family members, now we have to use it to fuel our vehicles. It's no magic. We know where the money comes from. It's from you and me. So it's technically making us poorer than what we were. So it is high time, honestly, to have a rethink on our democratic system. But
in a way, we are more like discussing political business now.
Technically, because that is it's a political decision that is now affecting the economy.
The economy, absolutely. Yeah. Now, let's look at the coming of the military. Now, we've had them before. We've blamed them for all the woes that Nigeria suffered with all the economic problem, with all the structural adjustments of Babangida that led to the crash of the Naira, as strong as it were when it was introduced in the 70s. To what we are now, we are now seeing the military again find their way back into the politics of Africa. Why is coup again becoming so fashionable at this point? Don't you think, even if though the democracy, as bad as it is, some have said is the best form of government, maybe we should adopt another system that will just take the military out completely?
I think this has to be with the failure of political leaders, the political actors. Because if, for instance, as a country, Nigeria, we were back to democracy in 1999, assuming the successive government had a very laudable plans and implemented it for the betterment of the country. The same problem we had in 1999, we still have them. Do we have stable electricity? What was the campaign for then? We don't have it. No functioning refinery in Nigeria, the largest oil producer in Africa. Come on. These are the things that will make people angered. If to say the whole system is working properly, we can see changes. Of course, there are improvements in some other areas. Nobody can say there is no improvement. There are improvements. But the level could have been better or even double to what we have today. Some key sectors of the economy, some key sectors that has with the lives of the society ought to have been addressed by now. Health system should have been working by now. Our educational system should be functioning by now. But what is happening? Political elite took their children out of the country to study. These are some of the things that anger the masses, and things are not working.
Yes, another area I want us to talk about with regards to this economic implication of this coup is the Nigeria cutting power supply to Niger. Is Nigeria not reneging on the agreement signed a decade ago that prevents Niger from operating dam in their country?
River Niger start from Putejalon down to the River Niger in Nigeria, where it's reached its confluence in Lokoja. Part of the international agreement, we normally, once there is what you call mouth of the river and the source and mouth, it flows down to Nigeria. If, for instance, Nigeria decided to dam it, we couldn't have a Kainji dam.
Exactly.
We can't have any water. So it was part of that international agreement that allows Nigeria to dam at Kainji so that we can have hydroelectricity and supply to Niger in return. It's not that we are giving them for free. Of course, it's part of agreement. Now, because of the coup, we cut the electricity. What about if they source money from Russia anywhere and decided to build dam tomorrow? Because you have violated the agreement. So there are certain things we have to consider. If we cut electricity today, it's not the military leaders that are affected. It is the masses that will be affected the most. And we have violated the agreement we signed with them. Of course, I was glad when I heard the president saying all the decision he's taken is not him as Nigerian president, but as a head of ECOWAS. But this is a purely Nigeria and Nigeria agreement. So even
some of them, in fact, they are looking at it as Nigeria fighting them, not really.
That is the general total, especially when you go to the border community. That is the sentiment, because people intermarriage, and they have already blended. It's only that all this international demarcation, this is Nigeria, this is Nigeria. When you go to Kaduna, Sokoto, Kebbi, Jigawa, State and part of Yobe, you cannot separate people. They are just the same. So somebody who, in fact, There are certain villages in Nigeria, when you go, you cannot see Naira. They spend more of Niger currencies than Naira. So with this, you cut electricity, definitely the impact is going to be...
Absolutely, the impact is going to be huge. And of course, it did quite a whole lot need to be done. But just before we go, I just want to get your take, just something away from what we're discussing now. The new president is on board, and of course, he has inaugurated tax policy, fiscal policy and tax reforms committee, and is targeting 18% to 18% tax to GDP ratio. That's in 3 months. Do you think this is achievable?
Well, if there is will, it's possible. But for now, we are going to see how the committee will try and achieve that. It's all about will. If we are, Nigerians are blessed. We have intelligent guys in this country, intelligence that can do a lot of creative thinking to bring out solutions. Our major challenge in Nigeria is what? Implementation. The ideas are there. The researchers that everything that will make the country better. We knew what do A, B, C, D, E things will change for better. But are we willing to do that? Let's hope and give the new president the benefit of that he's willing and capable to do the implementation. As we have seen in subsidy. So it's not only subsidy. We want to see the pilots also implemented.
Okay. And properly too.
That's to our own advantage. Let the masses also see something to their own advantage. By that, people will take you serious.
Absolutely. Professor Yahya Zayana Ibrahim, Director Academic Planning, African Aviation and Aerospace University. I must thank you
so
for your time on business. It's a very interesting discussion there.
Thank you so
having much. A time is always our friend when we're having a fun like this. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yes. With that is a wrap on the show today. Join us tomorrow for more. I am Yusuf Akogun.